What's going on, everybody? Welcome back. Thank you for checking out this episode of the Keep Klimbing podcast. I got my first guest, external guest. I've been the guest, but I've never sat in this seat with a guest. I've got a guest here with me today, Anthony Silkwood. Silk is the pitching coach at Jacksonville State University. Jack State is a consulting partner of ours with Premier, and we've had a long kind of working relationship and a few future things in the works too. We'd love to keep digging on, So really excited to have Silk here on with us today. Anthony, tell everybody a little bit about maybe where you come from, background, baseball background, what kind of led you to Jack State.
Yeah, no, absolutely. First, appreciate you guys having me on. It's always good to chop it up with you guys, and you guys have been a great partner for everywhere I've been. So it's been a lot of fun. My obviously my route to coaching was obviously usually really unique in the sense that I went to the Marines out of high school, played college baseball at an older age, and then put myself in the coaching realm right away, and that's put me in a really good spot, and it's also allowed me to learn at a different age as well. Like when I was an older player, I got to learn from the coaches, figure out why they did certain things, had more of an understanding of what the leadership styles looked like, but really took that into the coaching side. Outside of that, it's been real easy for me. Everywhere I've been, I've had really good people I've gotten to work with, and everywhere I've been, I've gotten to partner with P3, which has been absolutely awesome. So it's been a really exciting piece. This is going on year 3 here. Year 2 as the pitching coach, and we're in a really good situation in a sense that we have really good players. We have people that want to be here, and it's a warm weather environment that's got really good food, so it works out pretty good.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah. No, I think the couple of topics I really wanted to address today, we'll get in on down the road here a little bit more about the data analytics side of things and implementing some of the, data and stuff into training programs and some of those details. But one thing that I think is really unique about Silk, and it's because of his, background that he spoke about there, is just talking more about like leadership styles. Anthony is a really good leader of men, and I think that's been a very obvious thing that I've noticed, and obviously with a unique background like he has, that's coming from a wide variety of different experiences that you've had, and that's awesome. I think that's really impactful, probably certainly for you, but then even for all the players that you get to touch on a year to year basis, and whether they know it or not, they're going to be thankful for that, on down the road. Sometimes maybe with the kick in the butt or the pat on the back, and sometimes those things need to happen, So, but that was really the first thing I wanted to touch on today. The past episode we talk about building identity and culture, and for anybody that missed that, we were just discussing the maybe the circumstances that are kind of revolving around college athletics across the board. It's certainly hitting baseball and certainly hitting pitching staffs across the country, and those details of higher staff turnovers, different people from year to year. Really, historically, this is something that impacts every team forever, every organization, everybody. But identity and culture, and just with the higher turnover rate, you have more people, new people coming into these environments every single year that you need to try to establish that. Every year in the fall, you're going through these recruiting cycles, during the spring and the summer, and you get these new group of guys in, and every year it probably ebbs and flows a little bit different. Obviously, with less of a turnover rate, the new people can kind of absorb to what the existing identity and culture is. But when you've got a really, higher, percentage of new players, getting that message across early on, setting the tone, setting the culture environment, and some of those standards, I guess, within the pitching staff, super impactful. So, really my first question for you, Silk, is why don't you talk a little bit specifically about what's important to you as far as identity and culture, very specifically to the Jack State pitching staff that that you look to build.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. And culture is something that, everybody talks about, oh, it's player ran. Well, coaches set the table for that, right? The coaches set the table for culture every single day with what we bring to the table each and every day to our guys, and what we bring to practice, what we bring to off time, just in our everyday environment, running into players throughout campus. Like we're your coach all the time. It's not just going to be a practice. It's not up to the players only to bring the energy, effort every single day. And that's something we talk about on our pitching side. Like, there's nothing worse than a half in person. on anything in any walks of life. Like we don't want half-in pitchers, we don't want half-in coaches, we don't want half-in people. Like we want to be all in for what we're doing, and that allows the culture to be something pretty simple. And everywhere we go, for me when I was at Parkland or UIS or here, it's we're going to be the hardest working pitching staff in the country. And if we take pride in being the hardest working pitching staff in the country, our culture is going to be hardworking. And if your culture is hardworking, it's you're able to close the gap, right? Like in the recruiting side, like we're not going to go out recruit, the SEC. Like we're just not going to. But we can close the gap. We can have a great culture by hardworking people and guys that are excited to work hard and guys that are excited to have their teammates reach their goals every single day. We could have a culture where players, thrive on the hard stuff, embrace the hard stuff. And we talk about, in our program, as a whole, Coach Beezer talks about it all the time. It's the attitude of gratitude, and it's like you get to do these things. And I think for me, specifically like setting that table for culture, it's like I've done hard jobs before, right? Like
Yeah.
coaching baseball is not hard. Getting guys to do the things they want to do isn't hard. I've done hard, so for me, it's every single day. How can I put our guys in a great position to take off and be the best version of themselves, and how can I set the table for them, take the culture and run with it and create their own little pathway for it. And for us, it's hard working. Like our guys get after it every single day. Their mindset in the weight room is to lift the throw 100, and you never know when you might hit 95. So it works out pretty good for our guys. But our culture everywhere we go, it's going to be if we're going to be the hardest working pitching staff in the country, and that's doing the simple mundane tasks over and over and over again, knowing that the results are going to come based on our process being sewed nails. And as you have results, you just adjust the process a little bit. Maybe you take away here, add there. That's part of the culture as well, where we make small adjustments.
Yeah, amen, amen. A couple of things we touched on in that previous episode. I think work ethic is always really like the prereq for any type of success, no matter what you're doing. Like it's so much wider than just baseball, no doubt, and really just gets ingrained to who you are as a person. Like when you do that correctly, like no matter what you're doing, you're gonna do it. You touched on it just a minute ago, all in or all out, and there's really just no other way to do it. And I think once you've experienced that, you've seen the impact that can make, not just on you but the others around you. There's really just a very black and white one way to do things, and a lot of different ways to not do things. So I love that you said that. And then a couple of other things that we kind of touched on, is accountability and humility. I think one thing that's really important to me, important I guess within that, like the ecosystem of your entire team, is that certainly totally agree with the tone being set really from like the top down, but then also there's like really small like micro leadership moments and opportunities for every single person on that staff, from the top person to the bottom person. And you really got a rock solid culture and environment when the best player on your team can correct with humility to the worst player on your team, but then also vice versa, when that guy that maybe just statistically or on-field performance isn't the top guy on the staff, but he still has the audacity or whatever you want to kind of call that to help correct some of the top guys in the rotation or whatever. And that's very unique, and it's certainly done in unique ways. It's not going to be the same. I'm not going to act like it's the same, but the accountability across the board, but then the humility within every single leader within that to also take correction, look themselves in the mirror, and understand that that it's coming from a place of that ultimate like culture of what you're kind of talking about, that we're all just two hands on the rope pulling in the same direction. And some of the biggest wins, I said this previously, like some of the biggest wins for team culture usually comes from things getting sideways or going wrong, getting corrected. The person who got corrected accepts the accountability from whomever it like came from, whether it's from you, whether it's from Coach Beezer, whether it's from some insignificant person on the staff. They accept that with humility and look themselves in the mirror and make the correction that's needed within that. So I love that you touched on the work ethic piece. Maybe talk about specifically like very very intentional details within these first, this first month or so of the year. What are some very specific things you try to do, with your pitching staff to set the tone for that culture coming into a brand new year like this? What are some things that you like to do?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And at the end of the day, it's about, how I relay the message and all those good things as well. Like if I'm relaying a bad message, we're gonna have bad results. So understanding where that's at, understanding that every message, that us coaches want to get to our players, like maybe it's not the right time for that. For us, and as we start doing our on-ramp program, like it's not time for me to sit there and talk about pitch design. Like, you talk to all the, if you look at all the pitching coordinators in Major League Baseball and the minor leagues, and you look at it and you ask them, hey, how's your draftees do on light and throwing days? And they're just down there and they're ripping balls. I hear the guys, on our pro guys, they get drafted, like they get there and like they know what a light day is because we emphasize it right away. And like, when the culture side of things, is being built, it's built in stages, right? Like that's why we break everything down in phases. So phase one, it's just like, hey, this is our standard. Our throwing load's really low. Our workout training and like our strength training in the weight rooms, pretty moderate to pretty high at that time. But there's a lot of time to really build the standards of what we're looking for. Like something so simple as we're not we run on the field. Like we're not walking where we're going. We have a sense of urgency. We're going to be there for our guys who have bullpens. We're going to do those things, and all you have to do is say it once, and then your returners, they do a great job as far as relaying that message and relaying that expectation as well. Just because we talked about it early, we return all of our pitchers that threw 20 innings except two guys that got drafted. We return all those guys, and it's like we don't have time to reteach those standards. Like those standards stay the same. If we want to continue to grow, like we have to withhold the standards. Like those don't change. And early on, they've done a great job of keeping up with the standard, understanding what we're doing and what those standards are. Whether it's you know picking up after ourselves, taking care of the facilities, sweeping our sheds, taking care of all of our equipment or whatever that may be, supporting one another. I tell them every year, one time, hey, you're going to support your teammates in bullpens. And it's like they take pride in it. They want to see their teammates have success. And as you continue to build the phases, those expectations change, those culture standards change, and as they change for the better. Not only that, we're going to learn from our mistakes. Like we're only going to mess up this pickoff play one time because we don't need to make the same mistake as somebody else. Like
Yeah.
it's a standard in our program that you're going to watch and you're going to learn from their mistakes so we can continue to grow each and every day. And I think that's the big thing that we really harp on here at the very beginning is just like learn from our mistakes so we can make sure we never approach them again.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, like you're going to make mistakes. Like baseball is an imperfect sport. And the minute our pitchers try to be perfect, like, we're not going to produce anything of value. And at the end of the day, it's how do we lean into those failures to make them successes, and how can we learn every single day while maintaining a really positive and energetic standard here. As like as everybody knows, that first part of the fall for pitching before games happen, like it can be very, very, mundane. But it's like we take so much pride in it every single day because of the big picture. And I think that's where a lot of our guys see immediate growth, quickly, is because hey, they may never have taken care of themselves like that. May never have done, soft tissue daily or
Hmm.
whatever it is that we do on a day-to-day basis. Like they're putting themselves in such a great spot that it makes it really hard to fail. And when guys are continuously getting better, doing very little minuscule tasks, very mundane things, it creates so much more growth when we start doing the really cool stuff like having P3 come in and having,
Yeah.
guys left PR left and right. Like
Hmm.
it's a lot of fun. So
Yeah.
it's all built off that first phase. It's all built off that first steps. And the first stepping stone, even at the college level, is like, hey, we're gonna run to where we need to go. We're gonna move with intensity, and we're gonna be great teammates. And then when we conquer that, we move on to the next thing.
Yeah. I think that's some of the biggest things, biggest takeaways I've had from good, really and bad cultures that I've been a part of, historically throughout my playing career was, the differences in the details. Basically, everybody's going through, these fall practices right now in somewhat of the same structure. Like really the only thing that's going to separate you from your competition, from other people that you're, competing against, whether it's within the team or from team to team, from conference to conference or level to level or whatever. The difference is in the details. And I tell our guys that all the time, like everybody's showing up to the workouts. Everybody's going to fall practice, everybody's taking BP, everybody's doing the workouts, like every college program's doing that across the country. Every every baseball player is doing that, and having that prereq, of hard work. I tell some of our younger guys right now, like those guys that aren't working hard, like when you're younger, you beat guys just by like showing up, right? Like you're talking about those earlier high school things. You beat guys by just showing up. Throw the guys that aren't showing up to the side right now, because that's not even who you should be considering your competition. Your competition then becomes the people that are shoulder to shoulder, kind of around you, in like our training facility, or even just within your staff right there. Like you got guys that are competing for roles, competing for spots, in your rotation coming this spring. And really, the only way to separate yourself, once hard work is viewed as that prereq, that like it's you know the baseline for future success, that then it's the finer details, and you can accomplish a lot of those things even if it's not a physical edge. A mental edge is just as valuable, by sweeping up and taking care of your stuff, getting your stuff back where it goes, getting your gym, getting your dugout, getting your bullpen or whatever in order, all the way down to some of those things that you mentioned. I think is fantastic, supporting of your teammates, and watching and learning, from their bullpens, from their mistakes. As many things as you can learn as a player from other people's mistakes, obviously just helps you fast track and kind of compound on some of those things that you're talking about. So I love that from a team culture standpoint. But you spoke about your phases here a little bit, and I do kind of want to get into that. If you guys don't, you're watching this and you don't follow Silk on Twitter, he does a really good job of putting out a little bit of information on what behind the curtain, a little bit of what they do, from their phases, a little bit more information and some of the thoughts behind the implementation. And at the end of the day, I say this often, like a lot of the TrackMan info, a lot of the biomechanics info, it's all getting like way more readily available, and there's really no secret in collecting data anymore. I think 5 and 10 years ago, just the people who collected data, had such an advantage, that we're at a time frame now where it's all so readily available that it's all about now how you implement it, and Silk and his team has done a great job of implementing a lot of those phases, strategies, and training strategies down there, that I kind of wanted to give you a minute, maybe just walk us through, from a 30,000 foot view. Don't give any secrets away here. Maybe, we'll put that one behind the paywall, but talk to us a little bit here about, just your thoughts on some of these phases from a 30,000 foot view, as you get these guys into campus. You have a little bit of lead time there. We go through like some of the initial assessments that we help with, and then kind of moving past that assessment day, how do you view training in those phases, for your staff there at Jack State?
Yeah, absolutely. And there are no secrets here for the most part. Like I'm pretty open, when it comes to talking about it to like to you guys and whatnot either. It makes it a lot of fun, right? Like I think the biggest secret is you should bring it every day to your guys. Like they know when you're invested in. When these guys they say they want to come to Jack's, like I have to invest into them more than anybody else in the country. And that's where we start looking at it from the get go. Like we do see it from a 30,000 square foot, view, in a sense of like, you're looking at it from a big picture. Our season's 5 months. That means we have 7 months to prepare for those 5 months. How do we close the gap from where we're at right now to topple the guys that are like the LSUs of the world? Like we have the same practice time, we have the same time parameters, the same days of practice, the same everything as the guys that won the national championship in the SEC. How do we close the gap every single day? Like we can't practice like the New York Yankees. Like I can't run my pitching staff like the St. Louis Cardinals. I can't run my pitching staff like Ole Miss. Like you can't do those things because we're not those things. We don't have the players that they have. But what we can do is we can create them, or we can create guys that are good enough to play at that level. And when guys do that, they decide they want to stick around and they want to stay. That's why our transfer portal, we didn't lose a lot of guys to any of them really. So makes it pretty easy for there. But our phases are broke down just on that principle alone. Like our phase 5 is that 5 months. There's a reason for it. That's competition. That's it. It's end of the road. Like everything else is put into that to really give ourselves a great opportunity. So phase 1 is our introductory phase. That's when we do all of our on ramp. That's the most mundane, but most important phase as a coach, where we set the groundwork for what we're trying to accomplish. Phase 2 is we go into our competition phase. And right now, just like every other college program, some are going into their competition phase, some are still in their individual phase. For us, we're in our team phase, and this is when we get to figure out how we can compete. who are our guys? What do they bring to the table? How are we able to use them to win games in the spring when it matters most? What do we need to do in order to get them to where they can dominate the conference play when it comes time for the spring as well? A lot of evaluation, a lot of setting up for adversity there, and a lot of learning about each guy, and having these conversations with our guys, and not only taking the returners but also the new guys and put them in situations where they're going to fail. Like I want our guys to experience what the failure looks like, because I can't wait to watch them respond. You can easily respond in a positive way, or you can respond in a negative way, and it's a much easier way in the spring when you find out what that looks like in the fall, and we practice those things, and we take a lot of pride in that. Stage three, that's our post fall. Phase four is our preseason. Phase four and phase one are two of the most important ones for me. That's where a lot of the setbacks, as you would say, is the biggest in those situations. You see it all the time in like spring training and stuff like that. But for that, it's the most calculated. It's the most hands-on. For me, that's when I really manage the volume and intensity variations, heavily in those phases, to put ourselves in a great spot for the fall, and put ourselves in a great spot for the season as well. But at the end of the day, every single day matters. When you have 7 months to dominate 5 months on the outside, 30,000, it looks like you have a lot of time. But when you're doing week by week, and next thing you know, it's been 2 months, it's like, okay, I mean, we got 5 months to dominate 5 months. How do we maximize that? And I think that's what we do a really good job from top to bottom, is putting our guy in a great situation where we can maximize it, where we can make our pitchers the best version of themselves and put them in a really good position to have success. And I've had a lot of success with that, in a sense of guys getting better. And I think that's what I value as success with the phases, is I value guys getting better than they were before, and how do they continue to get better and better each and every day. Like that's the goal. When these kids pick a place to go to school, you want to make sure that you're investing back into them. It's the biggest decision until they buy their first car. Like where they're going to go to school. It's like let's pour into them. Let's make sure they realize that they're the most important players in the country, and let's see how freaking good they can get quickly.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. Yeah, that really important piece to just like understand for all players, how impactful your phases, your progressions, your cycles, or whatever. Everybody kind of has some different names for them, but how much they compound on each other. And that, like, phase one, while it may seem small, mundane, insignificant to some, like it is the base. Viewing this in like a pyramid type of way is how we typically present it to athletes that are just kind of coming and starting, and new athletes into like a training program like that, or to a college program like yours. Like, phase one is going to set the tone for how we do phase two, and on three, and on four, and on five. So if you're not building that strong foundation in that through that lens, and you don't have a rock star freaking phase one, don't expect yourself to catch up and make up for it in phase two either. Like, and that really helps set that tone for that phase one, how important all of those small little mundane tasks are. That a lot of people look at that and just view that as like, oh, that's time off of baseball, and I'm going to do my mobility and correctives, and I'm going to do this stuff. But they end up kind of just going through it to check the boxes and get it done. And that's where I'd come back to some of that difference being in the details comment of like, no, man, the ones that are like really are going to get the most out of this, the ones who are really going to compound the most success, on each one of these phases, are ultimately, when you get to phase five, going to be the ones that are most successful. And it's just so obvious, clear cut, and you see it time and time again from coaching experience, playing experience, that without a good phase one, phase two isn't going to be as good as it could be. Without a good phase two, phase three isn't going to be as good. And everyone wants to look at phase five and evaluate themselves based off of that, certainly. But what I think that they all could probably do better is some reflection on phase five, for sure. And like, that's your time to execute. And you're not going to have the success in phase five without a good 1, 2, 3, and 4. The tough part, I think, about our game is that you can have a really good phase 1 through 4 and still not see the ultimate success that you're looking for in phase 5. That's why I say it the way that I do, that like, some of that, work ethic and some of those earlier stages is prereq for success, but certainly doesn't guarantee success, but one big takeaway I think is really important for players of any age, any parents listening, any coaches listening, to help harp onto your team, is that that compounding interest, that ultimately I tell our guys all the time, and I love you kind of touched on this earlier. You said something to the extent of like, lift to throw 100. That I tell guys all the time, like this lift in September, what is today? September 23rd. This lift on September 23rd and the mobility and correctives or whatever small, mundane, seemingly insufficient, not important task, insignificant task that you have today ahead of you on a light lifting recovery day that could just be a time for you to come in and mentally check out. That day, those reps got to be just as important to you as the seventh inning 2-2 pitch with a man on second base, the go-ahead run on second base. And when you can kind of start to view those in the same sort of light and realm of what you have in front of you to attack for the day, that's where success really kind of starts to compound, and you'll start to see that success that like you're working for. So I love all those things, all those considerations. How about just like your overall thought, opinion on how comprehensive of an assessment approach or an evaluation, like we call it our comprehensive assessment approach. And when I say that, I'm, for our assessments and training programs, like, our business is very much so a supplemental training service to people's on-field performance and success. We don't get to be in the dugout with guys the same way that you do. You kind of walk this group all the way through maybe what we do, but then also an extension of that, like out on the field. When I say comprehensive assessment approach, I'm really specifically talking about, our range of motion tests, our biomechanics tests, our pitch quality tests, our performance tests, right? Like that makes up our comprehensive assessment approach. Talk a little bit about like your experience and impact that maybe that has on you and within your program, and how important that like full view of who a player, because you could even take that further, into what you're doing with helping bridge that gap from training to on-field competition with, psychological, things and considerations for players. What makes them tick, their responses to some of the adversity, like you mentioned earlier. Talk a little bit about like, your approach in that comprehensive type of approach, and like kind of a full view of player development, the impact that's had on you, and then maybe the impact that's had on some of your players.
Yeah, absolutely. I think now more than ever, information is so readily at hand. You can get on, Twitter or Instagram now, and I guess even TikTok. Heck, you can find someone that's talking pitching that you would agree with, that may be different than what you're doing. So understanding that, for me as a coach, it's like, okay, I gotta understand that every player that we recruit has a pitching coach that they've had a lot of success with, and did certain things with. And how do I bridge that information? How do I take all the information that you guys provide at P3 and give it to our guys, not all at once and not all immediately, but in sporadic occasions, right? Like, for instance, I'll use Jackson Phipps. Jackson Phipps, when we did his evaluation last year, he was throwing the ball better than he has his entire life. And it's like, okay, I'm gonna take all the stuff we get back from you guys, his movement assessments. Okay, he could be a little bit better with his hip stack, but like right now he's having a lot of success. So like right now might not be the time to really talk to him about his hip stack, but it's like, I have this. I have all this right here. I've met with your guys' staff. I've talked to them about it. I'm very open about it. Like, hey, okay, hey, I see this. I know what we're seeing here. I know what you're saying here. It's like, I'm gonna put this in my pocket because he's gonna need it one of these days. And sure enough, preseason, we're going through something, and it's already gotten better because of his correctives and mobility. But like now it's like, okay, hey, this is what we see on your guys' report. Like on your report, like let's make this adjustment here. Let's take a look at this and let's see how this feels on your plyo ball drills. Hey, try this. And now he has an objective. He's failed, but now he's able to do something about it. And then he goes off and has the best year in his entire career. And he threw 76 innings. He got all conference. And
Yeah.
I'm not saying that's what it was, but what I am saying is taking the information and applying it are two different things. Like everybody can get information. You can get on, like I said, you can go on ChatGPT and put in metrics all the time. They can tell you exactly what you are. But if you can't apply it or you don't know how to apply it, the best way for each player, then you're just wasting your time. But what you guys do is it's unbelievable. Like, I don't even know how the nickname People's Lab came up, but I tell people all the time it's about your guys' people. And what that allows us to do is allows us to have those conversations based on the information that's provided, give context to it. I'm on the ground every day with these guys, and I'll be like, hey, like this guy's struggling right now. Like, hey, let's dive in on this right here. Hey, this is gonna put him at risk for elbow injury or shoulder injury. Like, my job as a coach is to close the window as much as possible of injury. And it's obviously never going to close completely, but it's like, hey, I'm gonna attack this right now. And then there's times where it's like, hey, this guy's throwing better than he's ever has. Like let's sit back on this a little bit. Let's let this transform a little bit. Let this kind of come undone before we start really attacking that piece. And it's been a really really good system for us. We allow ourselves to really apply it in a great way. And why we can apply it in a great way is that the setup and the makeup of it is unbelievable. Just the conversations that we are able to have based on the information it's insane. Like
Yeah.
every kid wants to get on there and they want to go do those things. Any kid can go at this day and age can go, throw on a, throw on a Kinetrack system or do all those things, do a movement capture. But that's one day. Like this is a whole body of work that we're evaluating here. Like how do we apply it the best way? And that's where I kind of come in, and where we partner up is so important to me. Is it allows me to make those decisions without being alone. And when you're by yourself trying to make career decisions on guys, like it's hard to do. You want that second opinion, and you guys see thousands of athletes a year, and it's like there's no better person to ask than you guys and your team and whatnot too. So it's been really really good for us, taking that information and really applying it the right way is the number one thing that I think is under talked about when it comes to our partnership. The application is absolutely everything. You can get all the information you want, but if you apply it improperly, like you're going to spin your tires just as much as you did before you had the information.
No doubt. Yeah, yeah. Kind of lead back to what we talked about at the beginning, it's just that like the application of that really is the sweet spot. People are asking constantly, just about like secrets or how trying to learn how different people do different things. And certainly we ask our own questions to people. We value their information input on that too. And at the end of the day, I think having that lens of being baseball guys first and foremost, like really gives us a really good lens to kind of see and understand the game with knowledge and tools and resources and other people, to collaborate on all those things with. Ultimately, it's just a giant tool belt that we're trying to lead these players in a direction for them to be the best version of themselves, like you said earlier. And at the end of the day, sometimes that's keeping stuff in your back pocket. Sometimes that's waiting for things to unravel before you kind of break everything down. That I think the easy and the easy route through all of this is to just look at the data and see all the problems. I think one very, very big important thing through that assessment process for everybody should be too is why don't we find some strengths? Why don't we find some strengths and articulate to this player, man, like you're really, really good at these things. So like in the pursuit of maybe, targeting some of the deficiencies or some of the things that we can find that maybe you can improve on, let's not forget what you're really, really good at, what got you here in the first place. Let's continue to build on those things, like build and compound on those strengths still with, certain times of the year, certain instances, circumstances to also maybe target, some of the deficiencies too. So I love that you said that. Well, we're running short on time today. We got to get Silk to a team meeting here at 1:45. So we're gonna wrap it up here for today. But Silk, man, I really appreciate you joining. We wish you all the best with the staff here and through the fall. We'll stay updated with everything that's kind of going on and continue to support you guys. But we're rooting for you guys, and thanks again for joining us.
Everything you guys do, we really do.
Yeah, man. All righty. Well, that's all we got time for today. If you guys like any of this, feel free to leave a comment or something. Keep the conversation kind of going down below. We'll be back here next week, and we'll see you next time.